Hi everyone, I'm Ivy, a preacher here at Buddha's Practice Incorporated in Australia, and I am so incredibly honored to be exploring these teachings with you today. We're going to jump right into an explainer on a topic that is honestly an everyday, deeply personal challenge for every single one of us on this spiritual journey. It's an emotion that feels so automatic, so incredibly natural, and yet it carries these profound, life-altering consequences. And today, we are talking all about the great faults of anger.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. Have you ever just hit the absolute end of your rope? You've reached the absolute end of your patience. Think about a completely normal day. Maybe someone cuts you off in traffic, or a colleague takes credit for a project you spent months working on, or worse, a family member betrays a secret you trusted them with. In those moments, when our personal interests or our sense of fairness is under attack, we feel completely justified in our rage, don't we? We think, they absolutely deserve my anger right now. But what if I told you that very feeling of justified rage is actually our biggest spiritual blind spot?
Well, we're jumping straight into the deep end today with a pretty heavy truth from the Avatamsaka Sutra. The Buddha stated it plainly, "I have never seen any fault greater than anger." This isn't just about being in a grumpy mood or having a fleeting annoyance. We are talking about massive spiritual consequences here. The source texts actually explain that if you give rise to anger towards others, you won't obtain any of their merits, no matter how hard you practice. But here's the kicker. All of their misfortunes will immediately manifest upon you.
That brings us to Section 1, the greatest fault. Let's look a little closer at why this specific emotion is considered the ultimate fault, and how it fundamentally just derails our entire spiritual path. It all starts with the destruction of our bodhi. Bodhi is that beautiful state of awakening, characterized by complete clarity and absolute freedom from delusional thinking. When we give in to anger, that awakening just cannot arise within us. It's impossible. We gradually become more ignorant and completely muddled. Think about the last time you were genuinely furious. You probably said or did something you immediately regretted, right? That happens because when we're muddled by rage, we let our thoughts run totally wild. The texts tell us that speaking from a place of angry, delusional thoughts is literally just talking nonsense, and acting on them is reckless. Just this one obstacle, losing our bodhi, is enough to cause our complete downfall.
But here's where it gets truly eye-opening. Anger goes way, way beyond simple interpersonal conflict. The text explains that being angry at other practitioners is actually the exact same thing as being angry at the Dharma itself. Why? Well, because the Dharma is the mother of Buddhas. All our supreme benefits, our merits, our blessings, they are all born from it. When you reject a person in a fit of rage, you are simultaneously rejecting the Dharma they carry. You completely sever your affinity with the true Dharma, which means you lose the very root of attaining any goodness at all.
Moving right along to Section 2, the anger magnet. To really grasp how this plays out, we need to shift our focus to the practical, everyday mechanics of how anger destroys the exact things we're trying so desperately to protect. Picture your mind as a giant magnet. Normally, we spend our days guarding our interests, trying to secure them. So when a threat pops up, we generate anger, genuinely believing it's going to act as a shield. We think we're defending ourselves. But the sources reveal this fascinating universal principle. Anger actually creates a violent repulsive force. By trying to fiercely protect what's ours using rage, we activate a magnetic field that violently pushes away the exact blessings, people, and merits we want to keep. It's like we're building these thick walls to protect ourselves, but we just end up locking ourselves in a prison.
The really crucial point to remember is that this repulsive force doesn't discriminate. It specifically exerts an absolute push against all good things. You literally become an anger magnet, pushing away every single good opportunity. It destroys our wholesome dharmas, fractures our wholesome causes and conditions, and completely ruins our wholesome results. And if your body, speech, and mind are all wrapped up in anger at the same time, that repulsive magnetic force is infinitely magnified. Even if you're smiling on the outside but harboring this intense, seething anger in your heart, that repulsive force is still fiercely active because the mind is the root of it all.
There's this really powerful example from the text that hits the nail on the head. Imagine a master who has a ton of followers. To guard their followers and protect their own interests, they start to panic, they get upset, and they generate anger. Their self-centeredness becomes so incredibly heavy that people are literally scared away. And then, the master just gets even angrier, thinking, "I am your master, how could you run away?" We see this all the time today. Think of a parent or a boss who becomes so fiercely controlling and angry in an attempt to protect their kids or their team that they actually drive away the very people they love. By guarding their interests with anger, they end up entirely alone.
no blessings, no wisdom, no abilities.
Which brings us to Section 3, diminishing your blessings. I have to warn you, the cost of anger doesn't stop at social isolation. It takes a terrifying physical toll on us too.
In these teachings, we talk about the sadendriya, or the sixth sense faculties. That's our vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and mind. Our physical and mental capacity to actually use these faculties is actively sustained by our merit. It's like merit is the battery power for our senses. The sources state that because anger completely obliterates our merit, it directly targets and degrades our physical forms and our everyday abilities.
And this illustrates a pretty horrifying karmic trajectory of self-harm. It starts with diminution. You might still have eyes, but you become nearsighted, astigmatic, or colorblind. Your ability to hear or smell begins to mysteriously fade. Over time, this can progress to full-on deficiency, where you're missing limbs or faculties entirely. The text explicitly warns that when your blessings are completely depleted by your own anger, you're heading straight towards a vegetative state. It asks this incredibly sobering question. If you become utterly helpless, discarded by society like garbage, do you even have enough blessings left for someone to take care of you? It's intense, but through anger, we are actively creating this exact destiny for ourselves.
Okay, let's move to Section 4, the law of karma. Now, I know exactly what some of you might be thinking right now, because our natural defense mechanism is to say, but Ivy, you don't understand. They went way too far. My anger in this situation is 100% justified.
Well, the source text firmly dismantles this whole unbearable excuse. It actually calls this a worldly, unfortunate wrong view. Whatever terrible things other people do is simply them cultivating their own negative causes, which they are going to have to bear in the future. It literally has absolutely nothing to do with you. When you retaliate with anger, what you call unbearable is really just you entering a competition with sentient beings to see who can be more foul. By getting angry, you're willingly choosing to step down into the mud and share in their evil karma.
If you want to know what true patience looks like, the text shares this incredible story of King Kalinga. While his physical body was literally being sliced apart, he never once cried out that it was unbearable. Not once. Instead, he practiced pure forbearance, which is known as kshanti. Rather than cursing his attacker, his mind remained entirely undisturbed, just radiating pure patience. And because his patience was absolutely genuine and he held on to zero anger, he vowed that if his words were true, his body would instantly be restored. And sure enough, according to the infallible law of manifestation according to karma, his body was instantly restored.
Because the law of cause and effect, it is meticulously exact. You get exactly what you give. Look at these classic stories. The golden coin monk offered his only 2 coins to the Buddha. The direct result? Lifetime after lifetime, exactly 2 coins appeared on the ground whenever he bowed. A couple offered a simple blanket to the Buddha, and they were born lifetime after lifetime with this magical self-cleaning blanket. On the flip side, a bhikkhuni cursed other masters, calling them female dogs. None of those masters became dogs, obviously, but she herself was reborn as a dog. It's that simple. Whatever you give to others, you receive exactly in return.
Let's wrap up with Section 5, the Buddha's compassion. Hearing all of this might feel a bit terrifying, and frankly, it should. But let's shift our perspective for a minute to understand the true motivation behind these strict warnings. The texts offer us this truly shocking statistic. When measuring mental force, if the fault of greed is a 1, the fault of anger is 10,000. 10,000! The mental force of greed, as bad as we know it is, can just never match the sheer, explosive, destructive power of the mental force of anger. It's considered the greatest of all evil karmas because its implications are so devastatingly vast, stretching far, far into our future lifetimes.
Understanding that 1 to 10,000 ratio brings us to this really profound realization. The Buddha didn't define anger as the greatest evil just to punish us or to make us feel guilty. He did it out of infinite, boundless compassion. These strict warnings, they are an act of supreme love. The Buddha wants to protect our future, our physical faculties, and our spiritual awakening from the devastating self-mutilation that anger inevitably causes.
And so, I want to leave you with this heartfelt question to carry with you. Will you swap your anger for patience today? The text urges us to hold this teaching as a supreme, priceless scripture. Memorize it right now. Recite it constantly in your heart. The next time you feel that familiar, burning heat of justified rage rising up in your chest, whether you're at work, at home, or stuck in traffic, remember the anger magnet. Remember King Kalinga radiating pure kshanti. Let go of the anger for good. protect your beautiful blessings, and actively choose the path of awakening. Thank you so much for joining me today for this explanation. May you all find true peace and endless patience.